Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. And we'll get our meeting started here. Do we have a quorum here, so let's get to our roll call first. Kathy Garden.
Here.
Veronica Sanders.
Here.
Chris Kenworthy.
Here.
Skip Mackey.
Here.
Michael Mazejewski here, and we also have Jacqueline Bogue and Karen Warner present. I don't know as far as any public, if anybody is there in the public, but.
Sir, we have just only people attending are Dustin Sparks, your school attorney, for a presentation later, and Josh Padilla, your business official.
Okay, thank you very much.
At least so far.
Do we have a, did everybody have a chance to review the agenda? And aside from adding that meeting change date on the administration report, do we have anything else that needs to be adjusted, or do we have a motion to accept?
I will make a motion to accept the agenda as written.
I'll go ahead and second.
So we had Chris motion and Skip second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And as far as the meetings from last meeting, did everybody have a chance to review those? And do we have a motion to accept those as presented?
I'll move to accept the minutes from last meeting.
And I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So if there's still nobody in public comment, we'll move right on to our school finance report.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
All right. It kind of cut me out there when I was joining as a panelist. Were you ready for me? All right. All right. Well, we're going to be reviewing the check detail for August. Here we had to pay off quite a bit of bills from FY24, around 90,000 and such. The bigger bills are from Explore Learning System from last year, and Rhubarb and Elliott were food expenses that were carried over until this month. We did have rent that was paid twice in July. That's UMB Bank here, another large expense. We paid July and August this month. Explore Learning Systems, that was the catch up from the past year. County of Sandoval, this was a property taxes that the school had to pay from last year as well. So we paid it up front, so we're going to have to pay it this upcoming year as well, unfortunately. That's around $50,000. Should be around $45,000. We pay it right on time this upcoming year, which we plan to. Halo Technologies and Securities, we had quite a bit of action with them this past month. And that was just for alarm monitoring, cameras set up for the school. So we had quite a bit of action there, but nothing that extravagant when it comes to the amount. Let's see what else here. School Outfitters, LTC. So this was desks for the school, equipment for the school, and that the school needs. And lastly, the last large amount that we had here was just the rent for August at UMB Bank. There's nothing really of that magnitude to discuss. Those over $15,000, $20,000 other than what I mentioned. But I'm free to answer any questions that you may have regarding the expenses that went out of Mineral Tree. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to the ACH expenses that came out of the bank. The large one being retirements, $28,000, and then some fees associated with payroll. And then lastly, we had our regular payroll went through on the 15th and the 31st for the amount of $202,157.80. Any questions regarding the August check detail?
What's the analysis charge?
Analysis charge is the mineral tree analysis charge, so it's associated with mineral tree, more so than Mosaic, which is Mosaic's our payroll system. Mineral tree is our AP system.
Okay, any other questions? None heard? Move on.
Real quick,
Yes, sir.
just back up to the top, the Lowe's and Sherwin-Williams, both of those were from us.
Yes.
I guess that makes sense because they're both checks. They could have been accidentally applied or anything. Okay.
Right. Any other questions? Seeing none. Move on to the reconciliation from August. Start out with a balance of $310,856.26. We have receipts in the amount of $476,580.05, and disbursements in the amount of $671,205.78. Again, a lot of this was catching up on AP from the previous year, so that's why it was quite a bit of disbursements this past month. We ended up with a balance of $116,230.53. Our expected general ledger and our general ledger both match, which means that our books are clean for August and there is no difference. Any questions about bank reconciliation?
None heard.
Wonderful. I believe we do have to vote on these two items before I can proceed.
If there are no other questions, do we have a motion to accept the check register and bank reconciliation as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the check. Sorry, say it for me. The bank reconciliation as presented. Thank you.
And
I'm
I'll
set.
second,
Okay,
I'll second the
Kathy.
motion.
Kathy seconds, Veronica made the motion, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Okay. I'm going to show everybody the forecast for September. We did increase due to the loan, which we'll be discussing later in the meeting, as well as decreased in SEG due to the projection being lower. Well, the current enrollment being lower than our projected enrollment. We still have time to get those extra kids in here, but it's roughly 5 kids and $79,000 that we're losing if we don't meet projections. But this is just the forecast of what is current at this point in time. Again, we had roughly 90K carryover from FY24 to FY25, so it does hurt our bottom line this year, unfortunately. We made some adjustments and expenses due to current POs, but that is due to change as well. Once the school and school leader, we all decide what completely we will use the loan for. Equipment is the plan at this point in time, and we'll be able to use some expenses and hopefully JE those expenses that we've already bought equipment for the school, and then just charge it to the loan that is already in hand, which will help with our bottom line when it comes to operations this year. The current payment schedule is also in this forecast, and we have a ending operating fund balance of $133,251, and this is including the bond covenant of $195,271. Any questions regarding the September forecast?
It looks much better than it did last month. So
It does. It does.
um,
What do you have
Okay.
forecasted for IDEA in there?
IDEA, same as last year. We're just basing it off of last year. I know it's probably going to be higher due to the growth in special ed kids, but to be on the conservative side, that's what we have it is. And with $265 more due to the bar that we just received that needs to be voted on as well. So it did change slightly due to the preschool IDEA, but in comparison, it's the same as last year.
Okay, and then did we get any Title I dollars this year or no? I couldn't remember.
No, there's still an opportunity to get them,
Okay.
but
Okay, but no,
Yeah.
nothing on the table yet. Okay,
yeah, I'm telling you.
that's my only questions.
Jackie, how are you feeling about this version versus the previous?
Well, it's more accurate, which is good, because like we are sitting with right now, 427 kids are enrolled, you know, as of today. We still have until, I think, October 10th, I think is the 40th day, I wrote it down. So we still have some time to try to get in a few more numbers. We are actively calling, but K through 5, I'm full, I'm at capacity. It's still that 6, 7, where we just are not seeing the kids materialize. Yeah, I'm sorry, 40th day is October 9th. So we have until then to see if we can bump that number. My personal goal was to get closer to 430. And I looked at seeing even if we could put some more kids in some of our classes that are full. But we're running into furniture. We've already bought more furniture, and do we want to buy more furniture and overcrowd our classes? To put them closer to 20 in the elementary setting, and I know we've talked about this, but numbers, I mean, it's much more accurate, which is good, because it's a true depiction of what we're seeing, and we know what we need to play with, and plus the loan, I think we've used, we'll talk about that, but the money I'm hoping will be streamlined and used pretty appropriately.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yes, actually, sorry. Fundraising this year, Josh, I'm already starting to fundraise, and in October, I'm gonna be having another huge fundraiser. The goal that we're gonna start doing is raising a lot more money. I didn't spend a single dollar that I fundraised last year because it got encumbered into our operational dollars. Will I be able to start having a line to where that money won't get touched and eaten up into operations with this forecast? Because I don't wanna fundraise and not be able to use it.
Right. In this particular scenario, yes, you will be. You'll be able to use it. Just for clarification, I mean, yeah, I know you want to use it for activities for your staff and the students, but yeah, you'll be able to use it as that is suited for those needs.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so this is what the cash flow will look like for the remainder of the year. With the expenses for the items to the kitchen hitting largely in October, November, and December, which will lower our cash flow a little bit. But also we do have the loan hitting in October at some point, which will help the cash flow significantly towards the end of the year. This is what the cash flow graph looks like. Obviously, it fluctuates quite a bit when we anticipate a lot of the spending for the items and materials and equipment to be done around the holidays, and then it'll grow as our reimbursements do come in, and then drop due to payroll hitting twice in June.
Are we Are we
Mhm.
looking better, Josh, if the PED decides to drag their feet again on their
On paying.
payment? Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like the
Yes.
lowest, looks like November would be the month that might be a challenge if it's late then.
Um, so the reason why it was such a challenge is, especially this year, is because it was July, and that's the fiscal year that it already ended. We have a really decent cash balance in November for the most part, and we'll have I set kind of like a guideline to have a certain amount in the bank in case that does happen. So the lowest it'll get is around $85,000. So that would be able to help with anything that's quite significant and large that could hit in November if, or early December if PED does drag their feet. So as far as accomplishments, we're making decisions a lot earlier than we did in previous years, by sticking to our current enrollment. So we're able to really plan out the rest of the year. We still need to watch enrollment and staffing closely because it does fluctuate depending on benefits that come to and from the current staff, can significantly impact the fund balance. FY24 audit it did start. Things are commencing. We're going to be having an update tomorrow regarding how things are going there. And future items, just keeping with the current budget and forecast. And then once we get our 40th day numbers in, be available to adjust if that does come. And that is it for the presentation. I do have a bar next.
Do we want to
Okay.
have the approval with the bar including?
We
Or do
will
we
need
want
a.
separate-
Oh,
Or do we
sorry.
want a separate approval on the report?
Chair Mirzajewski, you do not need to approve the report. The forecast presentation is just that. You did you did prove what needs to be done.
Okay,
And now we have the bar, and then you'll need a vote on that one as well.
thank you.
Yeah, so we only have one bar this month. It's for Idea B preschool allocation that PED has granted this school. It's for $264.90, and it'll be going to salary expenses for teacher.
Do we have motion to approve the bar for $264.90?
All motion to approve the bar as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye,
Hi.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, Josh, I guess we're done with your presentation. I can move you back, but I do know that Mr. Sparks will be speaking about the facility agreement, and that lease loan. I don't know if you wanted to make any comments about that before you leave or not, but offer you to do that as part of your finance.
I'm fine. I'll stick around for the presentation though, just for curiosity's sake. But it is built into the forecast, both the expenses and the revenue. So again, it wasn't voted on, but that was just an assumption that it would be approved by the board. So that's the only comment that I have regarding the loan.
Okay, I'll move you back to the attendees, but if they have questions for you, they'll call on you. Thanks, Josh.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to finance and other support from ELS.
Oh, I think you have I've revised the order on the
Okay.
agenda. I think you have an older copy.
Okay,
And the reason for that was to, so Justin is here after all, but I thought he was not gonna be able to get here till later. So we moved that around to when he needs to speak to you in closed session.
Okay.
And then moved up the governing council business so that you could get Mr. Sparks'
Okay.
presentation and
So then we'll move
um,
on to Dustin Sparks.
okay, I'll promote him to the panel then. And yeah, we're on 6A, which is the proposed facility agreement.
Hi, Dustin.
He's there.
Here he comes.
Oh, here he comes.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Well, thanks for having me. Um, I know we've talked about this briefly a little bit before, but today received a draft of the lease document that was then added to your agenda. And so just got that today, and then the numbers that were linked onto your agenda were also just provided today. So I know you all haven't had much time to look at it, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to look at the changes either. So I want to just start at the beginning of what this structure looks like and what it is you're doing, and then we'll kind of get into the details and some of the concerns that I have, actually more so today than I did yesterday. Um, so what the structure of this is that Justin Bayardo, as well as two other board members, formed a Texas nonprofit corporation that is borrowing money through HJ Sims, a bank that they are then selling to their high net worth private banking clients. And it is structured such that they are borrowing around $2.5 million and then are entering into 3 lease agreements with the 3 New Mexico Explore Academy schools, and then 2 schools that are out of state. Those are structured differently. I don't represent those schools, not really keeping up on what the structure of those are, but for the New Mexico schools, given how the laws work, these are all structured as leases. And the term is set for the loan at about 5 years. And then so the leases are structured to last for about 5 years. You then also have the ability to pay them off early. But that's piece of the information that was not provided in the document that you all received. And then I did get an updated version, within the last hour, that reflects some of that. But it's all then tied into, that one loan that is being taken out by Divergent is the name. Sorry, I'll give you the full name. Divergent Management Group is the nonprofit that's taking out the loan and then leasing the funds over to the school. And so the lease agreement is funding the things that are listed within that document that is linked. There is an exhibit to that document that shows what is being used for. And it's just equipment that you all, I believe, have for the most part already purchased and then would be getting money back for. But it's playground equipment, covered seating areas, student furniture, campus perimeter fencing, teacher laptops, student Chromebooks, signage, wireless access points. So that's Exhibit A to the lease agreement. All those things fit under the personal property category, even though the fencing, is attached. The way that your current lease for that facility, which is a lease purchase agreement, is set up, and how it defines what you can add to the property that does not then become part of the property, those things would fit. It addresses things such as, gates and signage and light fixtures. And so, if you're familiar maybe with some other leases where those things would then become part of the building once you attach it to the building, this lease give some flexibility for you all to attach things to it that are still technically removable, like the fence. If it was a stone fence or a cinder block wall fence, we couldn't really argue that that's removable, but the fence that you all installed, could be removed. So it's permissible under your existing facility lease to add this equipment without it attaching. And so it works with that document. Any questions about what I've said so far?
None heard.
All right. All right. So what piece of information that is incorrect in that lease is that on the lease payment schedule, it shows, which is Exhibit B, it shows an outstanding balance amount. And that whole column is wrong and needs to be replaced, but the bank hasn't produced that payment schedule yet. And so what it's supposed to be reflecting is if you pay off this lease early, how much are you going to have to pay? And so in the PDF that's attached to the agenda that starts off with sources and uses of funds, towards the end of that document, starting on page 14, shows a call date and a call price. And so it says December 1st, 2024, the call price would be 102. So what that means is that you would pay 102% of the outstanding price, where when you get to December 2025, you would just pay the outstanding price without paying a premium. So that's not really, that's a very reasonable premium, to pay and paying off, the loan early. So if you paid this off, starting in December of this year, you're going to pay an additional 2% over what you've actually borrowed. And so what's shown on that lease schedule is not 102%. What that actually is the total amount of interest that would be paid over the life of that lease added to the principal amount. And it's showing then a number that's over $500,000. And so that's not actually what the bank just told me on Monday that you'd be paying, and nor is it what, it showed it on that call price. So they still need to create that. So be it that we don't have that, and they just got over this these numbers today, hoping to have this much sooner. Not really as final as I was hoping it would be before we got to you all. Within that, question?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Sparks, but I don't know that the board, is this the first time the board hears about this as a group? I don't think you were at last. I'm sorry, Chris?
So I feel like it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think we came to the Rio Rancho board last month, and we've been doing this with several schools. So I just wanted to give Justin a chance, if you don't mind, to speak to it, because I know he's talked to the board chair and to Ms. Bogue, but I'm not sure everyone is caught up to. I think this is the first they're hearing of it.
Okay, I'm
Go ahead,
sorry. I thought
Justin.
you all had been briefed on it previously. So yeah, if Justin wants to.
Yeah, no, I sorry. I mean, Dustin is delivering the right information here. I'm like, oh, maybe we should take 3 steps back, I guess, to talk about this. Yeah, Mike and Jackie and I met, I don't know, was 6 weeks ago, maybe, with this opportunity, because the various Explore Academies are all kind of in different stages of growth, and there's different needs. And, Jackie and Rio Rancho, Explore Rio Rancho are all obviously, she's in a heavy growth phase, adding grade levels, but adding students. And of course, the catch up on funding from the previous year is always a challenge for schools that are growing. So anyway, this was an offer that I brought to each of the different boards and different principals of all the schools to see if they wanted to take part in this kind of collective borrowing agreement for their different needs. Jackie's specific needs are furniture, play area expansion, some school supplies for teachers. And so, those are unique, I think, to explore Rio Rancho. And so we talked that day just about, is this something that you or Rio Rancho, Explore Rio Rancho would be interested in taking part of, because it's not obligated. There's nothing required in this, but in allowing the schools to come together and piece together, hey, this school needs 200,000, this school needs 250,000, that becomes something that is then doable within this kind of like a financing structure. It gets over a certain minimum, which is I think like 1.2 million, which allows a deal like this to get to happen. So again, it doesn't mean that all schools have to take part. All schools happen to be taking part because I think they're all interested in little pet projects that they have going for various reasons. So yeah, in no way is this board obligated to move forward with this. I think it's a good opportunity. It's a financing deal that is kind of unique to charter schools around the country. Only a few schools have taken part in deals like this, and it does. It's. I'm not saying it's exclusive to Explorer Academies, but it is something that I think we have kind of an inside track on, given that we've worked with this bond broker before. We have a good relationship with them with some of the facility financings that we've done throughout the recent years. So this is not a facility related thing, but it is, as Dustin said, it's since the school can't be loaned money, it has to go through these like sublease structures instead. So but yeah, and so I guess to speak to the structure of it, what we've done is as Dustin mentioned, we've created this new nonprofit as the borrower. And if you guys remember when we did the bond financing on the building before the building was renovated, for students moved in that first year, we had to have this nonprofit borrower. We found it very challenging to have multiple borrowers for different schools, and just keeping on with compliance and financial reporting. So over the course of the next few years, we're trying to like consolidate those under one borrower to make it easier and cost effective for not every school to have their own foundation, their own board, their own 990. I mean, it becomes somewhat tedious to manage on our end. And so, we've kind of creating these one-off foundations, and the goal of this divergent management group is to create one foundation that can then allow each school to kind of come underneath it, function as its own isolated entity, so that it's not impacted by the health or lack thereof of other schools, but it has its own borrowing structure and can go out for nonprofit or tax exempt bond financing, which I'll talk to you about later during the closed session. But so yeah, this borrow was created kind of for that purpose, but also can function in this role too, where it is the borrower of these funds and then can then loan or sublease to the schools, either money directly if it's a loan, which isn't allowed in New Mexico, but sublease for tangible goods, as Dustin mentioned, that you would want to pay off over the course of time. And so I think that's kind of the high level nutshell version. Dustin, is that described correctly? Did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did great, Justin.
So I think that's just the general idea. And so Mike and Jackie and I met about 6 weeks ago. I kind of threw this out if you guys wanted to take part in this, and so there was enough interest at that point to get moving. And Jackie has made a list which we've gone over several times, and she's added to and taken away, and we've gotten quotes and revised. So the funding list is kind of Jackie's wish list of things she would like to put in here and get financed over the course of to be paid back over the course of, in this case, 5 years. So
does anybody have any questions for Justin before we on his explanation of the loan, and before we continue on with Dustin's presentation?
Just looking over the payment schedule and stuff.
And Dustin, do you feel like because the documents, yeah, we were waiting on documents this week, and obviously they arrived kind of late. Do you feel like they're in a position to recommend approval, or do we want to wait for that revision like you mentioned?
So
Yeah, so in looking at some of the documents that Ms. Warner shared earlier today related to what you're going to discuss in closed session, actually makes this conversation, I think, tie to that more, because there is a date in there that's I think of December 1st that may relate to refinancing. And so, well, we don't want to talk too much about that. If you borrow this money now and then you're going to refinance within the next couple of months, does it make a whole lot of sense to do that when the cost of borrowing these funds is going to be over $40,000 upfront, which is over 15% of the amount you're borrowing, and then you're going to pay that penalty for paying early, which it's going to be a little over $6,000, versus if you are going to refinance this year. Would it make more sense just to roll all this in, now? If that refinancing is much further down the road, particularly in another fiscal year, then I think this makes a lot more sense, because you have budget needs that need to be addressed now. So I think that conversation should probably take place before the board really decides what they want to do with this piece of it. And wasn't aware of those things until I read the documents that were shared today. So I don't think this is something that you're probably ready to vote on now, and you need to have those conversations in closed session. And to clarify for the open meetings laws, that conversation is related to the acquisition of real property. And so there's a financing aspect to that of how you're going, would acquire that. And so that is what, really that is going to be discussed in closed session. And so questions at this point.
So I should have done this in a different order. So I apologize for that. But perhaps the board obviously asked questions of Mr. Sparks, but I would also propose that maybe we circle back to this item after your closed session, and maybe you'll be more ready to make a decision. And the decision, I think, you're certainly not ready to approve a draft anything, but there is a resolution there that you could authorize or designate someone to finalize the agreement with Mr. Sparks, if you decide to do this. But without all the information, your attorney is basically advising you to wait till you have your closed session. But I think we could circle back to this depending on the closed session outcome and decide whether you want to approve that resolution or wait till they have more information to bring to you. The resolution would kind of outline some maximum terms and conditions, and then but designate someone to work with Mr. Sparks to finish. But again, I wouldn't make any decisions right now based on what he said.
When we're in closed session, is that just with Justin? If we have additional questions for Mr. Sparks, will we be able to ask those during the closed session, or will we need to come back? Or
the board controls who goes into closed session, so it's up to the board to decide who you want to invite in. And then you can have different people in, and you can dismiss people, and the board can talk, without anyone else if you'd like.
Just need to be careful that we limit the conversation and close to the topic. We have pretty.
Yeah, so we could only talk about this lease and equipment purchase in minimal, just in relation to how it may connect to the acquisition of real property. And so, but you could have a more informed conversation in the public session about this piece after you have the conversation about the acquisition of real property. So personal property is things that you can pick up and move, like my cell phone. That generally is not going to be permissible to discuss in closed session.
Got it.
And
So
perhaps, Chairman
Go ahead.
Zajewski, perhaps we want to reorder the agenda. I don't think there's a problem with taking them out of order because they're all listed, but we could move closed session 1 to the next topic while Mr. Sparks is still around. Do a little rearranging on the schedule agenda.
Yeah, I think because we're kind of coming in the middle of everything, and it needs to be focused in one direction. Especially, you know, I know that Jackie and I had met with Justin, so we had a little bit of a background to what was going on, but obviously, you know, last month this topic was pushed off the agenda last month. So the rest of the board is a little bit blindsided on the aspect of this. So I make a motion that we do move to a closed session and restructure our agenda accordingly.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So as far as the next question as to who is going to be present at the closed session? Do we want everybody that's here right now, or should we have Dustin in the wings, Mr. Sparks in the wings, in case any questions arise?
I'm good with this group that's here currently, because I feel like I'll have questions for both Justin and for Dustin.
I'm good with everybody here being present too.
Okay.
So we also have Josh Padilla in attendance, as he's the only audience member currently. I do have another Zoom meeting set up if you wanted to move away from this meeting into a closed. I just want you to be sure that you have that option, and that Josh is also, so far Josh is the only other attendee that is here that you don't see.
Okay. So what is the question on that, Karen, as far as including just Josh in our closed session, or?
I just wanted to be sure that as you're saying everyone here, that you also know that includes
Oh,
Josh
okay.
Padilla. If that's fine, then we can proceed. I'll just monitor to make sure no one else joins and alert you if someone does.
Okay.
But otherwise, I did want you to know I did set up another link if you prefer to move to another meeting room.
No, I think we're fine with this meeting room, and as you said, if anybody comes in, we'll just monitor that. Okay. So it is 6:02. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second that. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right.
Is
So
recording stopped now? So it is 7:28, and we are back from our closed session. Do we have a motion to go back to general session?
I'll make a
I
motion
move
to go back to
that.
general session.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So during our closed session, we discussed the financing opportunities and suggestions that we have forth. And we have made a decision moving forward to take a vote on going with the loan option for, I don't know, do we have it classified as an A, B, and C option on there? We probably should, so this way it makes it a little bit easier.
I think you want to return to item A, the proposed facility agreement, and Mr. Sparks has his
Yeah.
hand raised.
Right, yes.
Mr. Chair, to clarify that because discussing financing is not a permissible topic. So the topic was purchasing facilities and how that purchase could be accomplished, then encompassed a financing conversation, but it was around whether or not you're purchasing real property.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. And so going back to item A then, as far as the proposed facility agreement, that's what we are discussing right now and taking a vote on the proposed facility agreement.
Can I take a stab at the motion? You can correct me if I don't do it right.
Sure.
Okay.
So are you talking
I-
about the lease agreement for
Yeah,
personal property? So it's not a facilities agreement. So it's a lease for personal property. And if you're ready to move forward with that, there's a resolution that's linked there on your agenda that would then empower the chair, and in the absence of the chair, the vice chair, to work with your principal and your legal counsel to finalize that. So if you're feeling comfortable, you could go ahead and do that and not have to meet again. Or if you want final documents before you're ready to approve them, then you would just table it and have a special meeting when final documents are ready.
okay. Any discussion on that?
I'm comfortable with Mike, or if Mike's not available, you, Chris, and Jackie meeting with council.
It would be Veronica. Veronica is,
Veronica, I'm sorry.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution for the proposed or the draft equipment lease once it has been corrected and finalized. Is that an accurate motion?
So the resolution covers those things and gives parameters and everything. So your motion would really be just to approve the resolution.
Okay.
Maybe it'd be helpful, Karen, if you could put it on the screen.
Yep. Also, do we need to designate someone in part of this resolution, Mr. Sparks?
You're designating the chair, and in the absence of the chair, the vice chair, and then you're authorizing any board member to attest to any document that the chair or vice chair requests that they attest to.
So vice chair is now Chris Kenworthy based on last election, right?
Yeah, whenever that goes into effect, if it was that
And-
day or.
yeah.
So here's the resolution. Are you seeing the resolution?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a.
Okay. I don't know how you want me to scroll through this, or there's
Um,
you know, do you
If
want to go
you
over it? Or?
could keep scrolling a little bit. So talks about who the parties are, what it is you're doing, clarification that you're not taking out a loan or obligating the school to any debt, because this lease agreement is a lease and it has the annual appropriation clause so that you can get out of it by not appropriating the funds each year. The part that do want you to really look at, though, is this number one under approval of documents. So the conditions that are there are, if it goes beyond $330,000 of what the lease is being based on, if that interest rate that the lease is being based on is higher than that 12.2%, or your monthly payments exceed that $14,000, then you would have to come back and have another meeting. So that's setting your limitations so that you can at least have a level of comfort that you're not exceeding that. And then if all of that is within the parameters, then the chair there by 1B could go ahead and work with the principal and legal counsel to then finalize all the documents and get everything approved and signed without having to come back to the board.
Okay. I'll revise my motion to make a motion to approve the resolution to execute documents, including entering into an equipment lease purchase agreement.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay,
All right. Thank you all. Good evening.
Thanks, Justin.
thank you. Thanks.
Hi, Dustin.
Okay, so,
So, Chair, I did planned to have the closed session on this finance and other support from ELS connected on the agenda so that Justin could use his time wisely and go right to that. You had requested that he come quarterly to provide some information on finance and other support. And I would propose that we move to that next and then continue on.
okay. Let's move on to that then. So we have to go back to closed session.
No, you do not.
Okay.
But there is another closed session, and that is just so that if you needed time to discuss the evaluation of the head administrator as we started last week, you may not need that. I don't know, but no, this
Okay.
is an open item.
Okay. So Justin, if you'd like to move to your report.
Yeah, no, I sorry, I think it might be internet on my end. Yes, I was my reports typically are going to be on the August, November time, kind of every quarter. And so I kind of wanted to give you, at your request, I wanted to kind of give you of what my reports will look like. I don't have it for this month, but I think the November one's my next one. But obviously our role in serving you guys and supporting Jackie on your behalf is to obviously alleviate as much as we can administratively off her plate. And so we're setting up a variety of systems to be able to provide you with a significant amount of data every 9 weeks. And so you'll be getting an administrative report in the form of what we call a data dashboard. Jackie will see it. A lot of it will come around the end of the quarter, which is second week of October. We pull out obviously academic data, student feedback data, feedback from teachers, staff, and the community. We look at attendance data. Axiom does a lot of the financial reporting, but I do liaise with them. I get forecasts from them. I'll actually get one after tonight. Jackie and I will meet with that forecast to discuss, next month, next quarter. She's got a handle on finances, so she doesn't need a lot of support from me, but we at least can talk stuff out. So yeah, my reports typically will be, and again, tell me what you'd like to know, because I want to make obviously that I'm serving, and I say but I represent obviously a much larger team of people. We like some of those members to come in and make sure they drop in and introduce themselves so that again, who's part of the team that's working for you guys and working for the school. But I, in terms of the general report, as I mentioned, academic data, feedback data, enrollment data, withdrawal data, student retention, etc. So it's a pretty comprehensive amount of data. Karen kind of knows how big these data sets can be that we work with some of our other schools. But I wanted to obviously ask you if there are things you want us to track that you're keenly interested in knowing more about or receiving reports or data sets on. I want to make sure that we're adapting our work to again serve how you guys feel your oversight of the school should operate. And so that's part of prior to November, 2 meetings from now, and hopefully in October I'll be back with some facility related things for you guys to consider. But in November, yeah, typically after the quarter ends in October, we compile the data, and then at November, I'll be back for that much more robust report at that time. But prior to that, again, if there's things you want me to to include, you can tell me now or let me know over email or anytime in between.
Well, I think, part of the discussion at last meeting that prompted us to request was, I guess, because in this past year, it seems like we've been working backwards, as far as that we've been getting, the reporting at the meeting, like, as far as saying, oh, well, we don't have the money and this is what happened. And, there was a lot of fallout from that, there
Sure.
was chain reactions of things. And we just wanted to make sure that going forward, that we don't replicate those errors. As obviously this is a new board, a new school, a new director of the school. So we have a lot of questions and we don't know, we don't know what's the norm, so to speak, as far as, the track record from other schools and we just kind of needed to be, held our hand held a little bit going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And Mike, we met for coffee that day with Jackie when we toured the facility. And if those are conversations, I'm happy to provide. I mean, I'll even defer to Karen. Karen has experience visiting other schools as member of the public education department. There's a lot of resources that on behalf of our team that I think we can bring, and I'm happy to spearhead that and, bring as much information as they can to provide you guys with some context. And I think we spoke, Mike, about this at coffee that time.
Yes.
Last year was so anomalous for reasons that I have never seen before in terms of the lease assistance funding, the calendar. Those are the two big things that I think really cut Jackie at the knees and were things I had never seen happen prior to that point. We got the lease assistance thing figured out, but having what it came down to in that case was, your rent was base rent and additional rent for a combined rent in your lease. And the state, for some reason, decided that was not a format they wanted to allow. And rather than letting us amend it, they just said, no, we're not going to give you lease assistance funding, which, again, for a first year school was cataclysmic, right? The calendar thing, if you've been tracking some of that, the class action, I wouldn't say class action, but the group lawsuit against the state for the calendar issues last year. I mean, Karen, we haven't officially thrown our hat in the ring on that, but we were very much a victim of some of those calendar shenanigans that took place. And, as unfair as it was in terms of, yes, you can use these days and count these days as instructional days, and then saying after the fact that you cannot. And then what was Jackie supposed to do? Now add days weirdly in between breaks and stuff. It just didn't make sense. Those are things I have never seen happen before. And were I think two of the largest reasons why the amount of stress that the school experienced was attributed to. So but yeah, no, I plan to be with you guys every quarter and more often if you request that of me. So and I'm happy to provide, again, a report, but also I'm here for anything you guys might ask of me in the meantime. So yes, please use me as a resource.
Thank you. I don't know, does anybody else have any questions? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Justin.
So, Mike, I know I've messed up your agenda
Yeah, I
completely.
don't know. You just tell me where I'm going next, if you could.
So the next, I think, circling back, the next thing would be this enrollment policy revision. If
Okay.
I could just jump into that, it's really
Yes.
quick and easy, and I don't think it's going to be a big problem.
Okay.
So, but basically, you have an enrollment policy that was approved. It has a timeline for which parents must respond. Are you seeing lottery?
Yes.
Okay. So none of this is changing. What we're proposing to change is one section here. And primarily this is so that when a spot opens up or there's a spot available, we can get kids in the seats quicker during the school year. So normally after the lottery, we give them an acceptance and they have 10 days to complete the registration process. That seems fair in the spring and over the summer. But as we get into the school year, Jackie specifically has requested that we speed that up a little bit. Folks sitting in a seat somewhere at school are willing to decide quicker than 10 days and get it done and get the kid there or not.
Yep.
So we're asking that we propose, or is to change it that it's once school starts, it's 5 days before we move on to the next kid on the list. And then that of course means this has to change from 10-day to allotted. But that is the only change. And I think Jackie can say, I could speak for her, but it was her request that started this. Other schools have already adopted it because they had their meetings before you, but it was originally Jackie's request. And so the ask is that you approve this policy revision.
I make a motion to approve the enrollment policy revision.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
The next, you want me to just keep going?
Yeah.
The next item is confirming audit committee members. We were seeking a new parent for the vacant parent seat. But Jackie and I are working on finding a replacement and don't have one to bring forward to you tonight. So no action needed on that. Item F was annual review of the new item F, formerly item D, charter contract and performance framework. It was shared with you last month. Basically, I had left this on the agenda in case there are questions. If you have any, happy to entertain them. You can also contact me offline if you want, but that is a request from CSD that the board review those every year and be familiar with your expectation.
Okay.
So no need for anything there unless there are questions.
No questions?
Okay. The
Um,
next thing was the
Kathy?
Ken and Jackie, you have a new parent this year. His name is David Fambrosi. He's the father of Brooklyn, and he's a realtor in Albuquerque. He might be somebody that you could ask if he would be interested in being on the audit committee.
Can you say that last name one more time?
It's Fambrosi. Let me find the spelling. His wife was one of my second graders decades ago. That's how I know the family.
I can look it up in Power School. Don't worry. Thank you, Kathy. I will be sure to look into that.
Fambrosi. It's F-A-B. I'm mispronouncing it, but it's something like Fambrosi. His first name is David.
Okay, and you
Yes.
said Brooklyn. I will look for Brooklyn. Karen, I'll
Um,
share that information with you.
He might be willing.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then the next item G, thank you for that, Kathy. The next item G was the closed session 2, which is basically an opportunity for you to go into closed session to finalize your head administrator evaluation. If you're ready to do so, I know everybody was to provide input to the chair. So I defer to you, Chair Mrzajuski, on that.
I received everybody's input, and I have all of their evaluations, and I don't know if you needed me to to compile a complete list of everybody's, or if you wanted an average of everybody's to, individuals to give an average, and then their comments, or select the comments.
Yeah, it's completely up to the board, but I would propose that one of the reasons for the closed session was so you could reach a consensus on those scores. But however the board wants to proceed with that, whether it be an average or a discussion, is completely up to you. If you haven't gotten those compiled in a way that you want to present, we could put this on another meeting, or we can move forward with discussing. It's completely up to the board's discretion.
I will put the question out to the board, is if you want to just put out the averages of those numbers as the final evaluation.
Chris, you're muted.
Yeah, thanks. I'm good with that. And I don't feel like we need to go into a closed session to chat about it, but I'm good with an average.
Okay. Thank you.
So then what will be required is for you to compile it and provide one evaluation that then you would review with Ms. Bogue, and both you and she need to sign it so we
Okay.
can get it in the file.
Okay.
I don't even care what it says as long as I have a signed copy in the file
Okay.
for a visit. Yeah.
So I'll compile this, and then I'll shoot you an email, Jackie, and then we can discuss a few further.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And then I also had listed on the agenda about strategic plan and key objectives, just to keep it there, that I don't think any work has been done, although maybe it has. But we have to come up with an evaluation, or the board needs to come up with an evaluation for how you're going to evaluate Ms. Bogue for this current school year. And that should be done sooner rather than later. in order for her to know how she's going to be evaluated. So I don't know that there's discussion or action on that tonight, but we need to keep that in the forefront, particularly Chair and Ms. Bogue, to propose something that you could bring back to the board.
Yeah, and I know that you sent me examples of the other charter schools, so we're gonna, I think at last meeting, we as the board said that we were gonna adopt one of those, so we'll just move forward with that template.
So I would suggest that you, as chair, or designate someone, or there could be one other board member, just no more than two, could meet with Ms. Bogue and go over what her objectives are and lay that out, and then bring it to the board at a future meeting for approval of the evaluation.
Okay.
And then now we're to Jackie's report, and don't forget about the meeting in October.
Yes.
And thank you guys for meeting virtually. It actually worked out in our favor. I actually worked a full day, but my stomach is just not being kind to me today, so I appreciate the virtual meeting this evening. Wanted to throw out there that if we could look at our October 17th meeting and possibly adjust the date. I will be unavailable. I do not need to be in attendance, but I of course love to meet with you guys. So if we could postpone that, that would be fabulous. If not, I understand as well. Do we want to look at a date? If not,
I have the calendar up here. I know that you had mentioned as far as that the Thursday and Friday of that week, you wouldn't be available.
I would not be, no.
Did
But
you want earlier that week or the following week? Is there a preference?
whatever works for you guys, I will make work for me, except for that Thursday or Friday.
And Veronica said she wasn't available either, so more reason. Could we just move to the 24th? Are people available then?
Yeah, that works for me.
Works for me.
Okay, I move that we move our October meeting to the 24th.
I'll second that. Okay, Chris seconds. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so October 24th will be our next meeting.
I appreciate that, thank you. Just to give you guys a quick update, we are, like said earlier, sitting at about 427 students is our actual numbers. We still need a few more sixth graders in order to get that goal. K-5, we are pretty full, to the point, I believe, fourth and fifth grade, we are over one. And so we're looking really nice. We have just compiled all of our iStation and iMesa data for this first window in beginning of year. Math is a bit lower than ELA, but overall, one of the big celebrations is that we saw majority of our returning students had very little regression. And so we did see that where they ended, they came back at or higher, which is actually really good. We didn't see the traditional, big decrease in skills K-5. We did see our seventh grade population come back with a bit lower math skill. 49 of those students are ours, and then the other 21, give or take, they are new. So seventh grade data was a bit lower. We will be reviewing our end of year state testing on October 11th with Cognia trainer to kind of dive deeper into some areas to see where we need to increase. And the nice thing is we now have cohorts, so we can look at trend data from last year and see where our kids are coming in and where possibly some regression in some areas. But K-5, I think, looks really good. The math carryover in first, second, third was super high. I will be sure to share out some charts with you guys at either our next meeting when we have just a little bit more time, but I know the agenda was pretty packed this evening, or possibly do it like we did last year in December, so you guys can see the data and then any interim assessments throughout the quarters.
Jackie, did you say it was IMESA or the NMMSAA?
IMESA, so IMESA came back lower, but our NM, so NMASA, so we're doing both. IMESA right now is what we reviewed for beginning of the year. And
Yeah.
that's where we saw seventh grade come back a little lower than sixth grade ended with that cohort. And then our NMASA data, we're going to be talking about it. And so this was their first year, obviously, with NMASA data. And then the one thing to look at is, so for example, we only had 23 third graders take the assessment for NMASA. And when you're looking at, 8 of them were proficient and you had some nearing proficiency in there, the data was not as friendly just looking at the subgroups. But we're of course going to be working on that on the 11th of October to really look at where are our watch students and what do we need to do to support them. Math, of course, was the lowest. I think last year you guys knew that math was pretty low in third and sixth grade. And those, of course, we talked about last year were their foundational skills just had so many holes, and how are we fixing that and plugging those in? But that's kind of the work that we've been doing for the past couple weeks is doing some deep data talks. But some celebrations, some areas of increase needs to be done. But overall, we felt that our returning students did perform rather well. So that was a good celebration for teachers and for students to see that, hey, work was looking pretty good. That was really my big report out for you guys in regards to enrollment and all the fun things. And I know we talked a lot about facilities and just looking at what's expansion going to be like for Rio in the next year to 18 months is the next focus.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody have any additional questions for Jackie?
No, it sounds great. Thank you for your good work, Jackie.
Okay, so moving on to the preliminary annual report from the CSDPC.
Yeah, if I can just go over that a little bit. It's linked on your agenda. We have an updated one since the agenda was published. I'll just go over what the change was. Basically, are you seeing the report with the seal at the top?
Yes.
So basically, this is the way this Charter Schools Division does their annual reports. It's called preliminary because we still don't have the data from last year, although we have some data, but it's embargoed and still being worked on. So basically just a summary of your school. You can read it. I'm not going to go over it all. There's the mission, there's the educational program from your contract. Not much here because we didn't exist in 22, 23, and everything's sort of pending and unavailable. We did meet our mission specific goal, so there we go. This talks about just the state accountability system, but we don't have a rating yet, because that's dependent on the data. Scrolling down, here's from your goal. You may recall that they have a rubric around how you meet the goal, but you had 89%, which exceeds, so you got a score of 100 on goal 1, and goal 2 was you got 92.56%, so you again scored very well. Overall rating and organizational and financial performance framework is still pending because they need to finish out all the data. But this is a biggie that I always look at and is very important to me that we have green all the way down as much as possible. I will tell you from having worked at the Charter Schools Division, this is a phenomenal first year school report with so much green. I will also tell you that let me talk first about the yellow. Working to meet standard on the health and safety was because we had some improvements that needed to be made or trainings documented in such a way that I was not done in the past. And so I was late in getting those entered on there and had to work with Jackie to get those scheduled. So they gave us a working to meet because we didn't get it done as soon as they would have liked. Fair enough. The staff credentialing, I strongly disagree with. They have already changed it to a working to meet, but I still think it's a meet standard. And the reason I think that is because we didn't have any staff credentialing issues. The PED puts out a licensure report or a discrepancy report that are potential discrepancies, and we get a chance to respond to them at every reporting window, which is 40, 80, 120 day. We are also very conscientious, Bev and Dolores and I, on making sure that our staff are credentialed appropriately and or that Ms. Bogue submits a waiver when needed. So this should really be green. I can tell you it's been changed to yellow on the new report, but I'm still not happy. But overall, and I just am not happy because I don't think when it's wrong that I think they should correct it. So I just want you to know though that that's the report with the change to 2 workings to meet is a phenomenal report. This preliminary report is going to be approved at the PEC meeting tomorrow. So I thought it was important that I share with you what they advised. I would like to share just quickly, maybe if I can, this email thread. Did it switch for me to an email?
No.
No.
Bummer. Let me try that again then. I have contacted the, which one is it? Screen 2. The PED about that. So here's there were 2 people reported on the licensure discrepancy report, and let's see if I can shrink this down so you can. Oh, it doesn't show the whole thing, but one discrepancy was because the teacher didn't put their social security number in their record, so it didn't match. But we didn't have any credentialing issues. And in this one, there's conversation back and forth about no, you need to list them as a long-term sub, but Jackie had submitted the sub waiver, so there was no credentialing issue. In both of these cases, it did show up as a potential error, but it was not in error. And therefore, why would we get a working to meet standard on or does not meet, which it was originally, when we are fully compliant with credentialing? So I'm still arguing with them a little bit because I just think it's on principle, but overall, 2 workings to meet is a phenomenal report. So kudos to Jackie for her work at school, and a little pat on the back for me because this is all compliance related. So, and so that's the report, and it will be at the meeting tomorrow. I will be attending in case, but they do a bunch of schools all at one shot. I doubt they're going to have any questions. But Ms. Bogue has also offered to jump on. It's virtual. I'm going to notify her when we get close, just in case.
Thank you very
So
much.
that's that. But if you read it or have questions about anything in it, there's not much but that right now. We will get a final report once the PED data is released.
Okay. And then item C is basically just the emails for the board members.
Let me share a little bit about that though. I have concerns and always have about all of you using your personal emails for board business. And in light of the litigiousness of the world these days and some other schools that have had issues raised, I don't want your personal emails to be IPRA'd or subpoenaed for board business. So we have created Explore.Academy accounts for each of you.
Okay.
It is a pain. It's another thing you have to check. You are certainly welcome to forward things to your personal email so you can check when, be more notified if you wish. But I'm going to be sending out instructions to set up your Explore.Academy email, and it will have all the information you need. If you have any trouble setting it up, it is another Google account. So those of you who use Google, it's just another Google account, even though it's Explore.Academy. And I would ask you all to use that for any business communications to keep your own personal stuff clean and clear.
Okay, thank you. That makes perfect sense. And so now moving on to any additional board comments. I know we exhausted a lot of a lot of brain power tonight. So if there's anything else, any other comments that any board member has? None heard. Okay. Still nobody in public comment, Karen?
No.
Okay. So wrapping things up, we have rescheduled our October meeting to October 24th, and same time, 5:15, and hope everybody has a great rest of the evening, and we'll see you all next month. a
Thank
good
you all.
committee.
That was a
Thanks.
long one.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
Karen, I see Kathy
I
saying
think Kathy moved.
yes.
Kathy got it?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in
Thank-
favor? Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Feel better, Jackie? Nope, she's gone already.